Have you ever wondered about the very genesis of all things, the ancient blueprints of existence itself? We often perceive our world as chaotic, a tapestry of challenges and fleeting joys, yet its earliest threads were woven with purpose, a grand design facing immediate peril. This isn't just a story. It's the foundational epic of creation, a divine narrative that shapes our understanding of destiny, choice, and redemption. Join us as we journey through the primordial darkness to the dawn of humanity, uncovering the pivotal moments, the profound betrayals, and the unwavering covenants that laid the groundwork for all that followed. Can faith truly triumph over the deepest human flaws? Will a divine promise endure through generations of strife and deception? Don't miss a single moment of this incredible saga. Hit subscribe and discover the untold depths of the Book of Genesis, an epic journey of creation, covenant, and humanity's dawn. In the beginning, darkness reigned over the abyss. Yet God's Spirit hovered above the swirling waters, ready to work wonders. With a single powerful command, God transformed the void into something extraordinary. "Let there be light," God declared, and as if by magic, light was born, immediately separated from the encompassing darkness. This majestic act concluded the first day. How did the heavens above come to be? And what hidden purpose did the ancient firmament hold? On the second day, God proclaimed, "Let there be an expanse between the waters to separate them." And so it happened. God divided the vast, formless waters, those below from those above, crafting a magnificent dome which he called sky. Evening came and morning followed, marking the second day's completion. The cosmos began to take its ordered shape. Witness the monumental moment when barren waters receded, giving birth to the Earth's first land masses and an explosion of vibrant, life-sustaining vegetation. On the third day, God commanded, "Let the waters under the sky gather into one place, and let dry ground appear." And so it was. God called the dry ground land, and the gathered waters seas. But the Lord's work did not stop there. He continued, "Let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees that bear fruit with seed, each according to its kind." From the bare earth, vegetation began to sprout, creating lush meadows and verdant forests. God saw that it was good. Before clocks, before calendars, how did the cosmos begin to mark the passage of time? And what celestial kings and queens were appointed to rule the day and night? On the fourth day, God proclaimed, "Let there be lights in the sky to separate day from night, and let them serve as signs to mark seasons, days, and years." In extraordinary fashion, two majestic celestial bodies emerged. The greater, an imposing king, the sun, to rule the day with its blinding light, and the lesser, a mysterious queen, the moon, to watch over the night with her soft radiance. The stars, like tiny jewels, scattered across the firmament, illuminating the earth with their twinkling brilliance, orchestrating the rhythm of seasons and the passage of time. The silent seas and empty skies burst forth with life. Discover how the oceans teemed with creatures and the air filled with the songs of birds, all blessed to multiply across the new world. On the fifth day, God declared, "Let the waters teem with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the sky." In an instant, the waters came alive, teeming with marine creatures of all shapes and sizes. Enormous sea animals plowed through the depths, while schools of colorful fish swam in perfect synchrony. In the sky, birds spread their wings, painting the heavens with exotic plumage and filling the air with melodious songs. God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the waters of the seas, and let the birds multiply across the earth." From the smallest reptile to the mightiest beast, witness the earth transformed into a living paradise as land creatures emerge, completing the vibrant tapestry of creation. On the sixth day, the once silent earth trembled as the Lord spoke again. "Let the land produce living creatures, livestock, wild animals, and creatures that move along the ground, each according to its kind." In the blink of an eye, the earth transformed into a paradise teeming with life. Herds of animals grazed in lush meadows, while wild beasts roared in the jungles. Reptiles of every kind crawled across the ground, leaving their marks on the newly created earth. God beheld the diversity and beauty of his creation and saw that it was good. The ultimate masterpiece, humanity, discovered the profound purpose behind our creation, our divine mandate, and the moment God declared his entire creation very good, ushering in the first Sabbath. But the final piece, the masterpiece of creation, was yet to come. With a solemn and purposeful tone, God declared, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." And so, God created mankind in his own image, bestowing upon them an extraordinary gift, dominion over all creation. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. Thus, the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. On the seventh day, God rested from all his work, blessing and making the day holy. Imagine a world without shame or sorrow. This scene unveils Eden, a paradise untouched by suffering, where humanity lived in pure harmony. But for how long? After the completion of a vibrant earth, God, in an act of profound love, planted a special garden in the east of Eden. This was a sanctuary of unparalleled beauty, where every kind of tree grew, pleasing to the eye and good for food. From its depths flowed a crystal-clear river, watering the entire expanse before splitting into 4 life-giving streams. In the very heart of this idyllic haven, God placed 2 unique trees, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Here man was placed, not as a passive observer, but to cultivate and care for this magnificent creation, living in a state of absolute bliss and innocence. One rule, one choice, one consequence. This pivotal command in Eden reveals the first test of humanity's obedience and the terrifying price of failure. Amidst the boundless provision of Eden, God gave man a single, clear command. "You may eat from every tree in the garden," the divine voice resonated with clarity. "But you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For on the day you eat from it, you will surely die." This was the boundary, the one restriction in a world of limitless freedom, a profound test of trust and allegiance, the very foundation of humanity's relationship with its Creator. From solitude to sacred union, witness the profound moment of woman's creation, a suitable helper, destined to complete humanity, setting the stage for life's most intimate partnership. Though man diligently gave names to all living creatures, to all domestic animals, birds of the sky, and wild beasts, a deeper need remained. Amidst the teeming diversity of creation, man found no suitable helper, no perfect companion. Recognizing this profound solitude, God, in his infinite wisdom, caused a deep sleep to fall upon man. And while he slept, one of his ribs was taken, and from it, God meticulously shaped a woman. Every curve, every feature, crafted with love and purpose. When man awoke and gazed upon this new creation, his voice quivered with raw emotion. "At last, this is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man." In this moment, humanity was made whole, a perfect union destined for partnership. A whisper in paradise. The serpent's cunning words sow the first seeds of doubt, challenging divine truth and setting humanity on a collision course with destiny. Can Eve resist the ultimate temptation? In the garden's vibrant embrace, a cunning figure watched. The serpent, more crafty than any wild creature, slithered up to the woman. "Did God really say, 'You must not eat from any tree in the garden'?" it whispered, sowing the first seeds of doubt. The woman, innocent yet vulnerable, recounted God's clear command. "We may eat fruit from all the trees, except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil." But the serpent's voice grew more intense, laden with seduction. "You will not certainly die," it declared, directly contradicting divine truth. "Your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. A collision course with destiny had begun. The bite that changed everything. Witness the catastrophic choice that shattered innocence, opened eyes to shame, and forever altered the course of human history in a single, irreversible act. The desire to know the forbidden burned in the woman's heart. The fruit, gleaming with the promise of divine knowledge, was irresistible. Unable to resist temptation, she reached out her hand, took the fruit, and ate. The taste, though divine to her senses, carried a hidden poison. She then rushed to share it with the man, who also partook of the forbidden fruit. In that singular, irreversible act, their eyes were suddenly opened. They became aware of a hidden reality. They were naked. Their nakedness, once unnoticed, now filled them with shame. With trembling hands, they wove fig leaves, desperately attempting to cover their newfound vulnerability. Caught in the act, the chilling confrontation where God's voice echoes through Eden, exposing disobedience and revealing humanity's first desperate attempts to shift blame. No one can hide from the truth. As the day cooled, a familiar sound filled the garden. God the Lord walking. Feeling an unprecedented shame, the man and woman ran to hide among the dense trees, hoping to avoid his presence. But God the Lord called out to the man, his voice resonating with solemn purpose. "Where are you?" The man, trembling, replied, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." "Who told you that you were naked?" God asked, his question cutting through their defenses. "Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" The man, in a desperate attempt to shift blame, replied, "The woman you gave me as a companion offered me that fruit, and I ate it." Then God the Lord turned to the woman. "What have you done?" Her reply echoed the first evasion. "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." Paradise lost. Witness the devastating divine judgment as curses fall upon humanity and creation, culminating in the heartbreaking banishment from Eden. This is the moment humanity truly began its struggle, shaping every challenge that followed. God then turned to the serpent, his voice stern and solemn. "Because of what you've done, you'll be cursed among all animals, wild and domestic. You'll crawl on your belly, eating dust for the rest of your days. I'll put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and hers. Her seed will crush your head, while you'll strike at their heel." Next, God faced the woman, his words echoing through generations. "I'll intensify your pain in childbirth. You'll bear children in agony. You'll desire your husband, but he will rule over you." Finally, God looked at the man and declared, "Because you listened to your wife and ate from the forbidden tree, the ground is cursed because of you. You'll eat from it in sorrow all your life. It'll produce thorns and thistles, and you'll eat wild plants. By the sweat of your brow you'll earn your bread until you return to the earth from which you came, for dust you are, and to dust you shall return." Then, in an act of mercy amidst judgment, God made clothing from animal skins for the man and his wife. With a heavy heart but firm resolve to protect his creations, God finally banished the man and woman from the Garden of Eden. That place of perfect communion and beauty could no longer be their home, for sin had entered the world. As they walked away, the garden vanished from sight, and the first sunset outside Eden painted the sky red. The era of innocence was over. The struggle of humanity had truly begun. Beyond Eden's gates, humanity began its challenging new existence. In the arid plains east of that lost paradise, Adam and Eve brought forth their first children, Cain, who toiled the earth as a farmer, and Abel, who became a shepherd, tending his flocks. When the time came for offerings, each brother presented the fruit of his labor to the Creator. Cain offered produce from his fields, while Abel brought the firstborn of his flock, their fat portions. God, in his divine discernment, looked with favor upon Abel and his offering, but upon Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. A shadow of resentment began to stir within Cain, a growing frustration that would soon lead to a far darker outcome. The first warning. As envy began to consume Cain, his face fell, etched with a visible anger. God, ever watchful, addressed him directly, penetrating the veil of his burgeoning fury. "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. It was a profound caution, a stark revelation of the choice that lay before him, urging him to master the darkness before it mastered him. A brother's betrayal. Days passed, and the seed of envy, left untended, sprouted into malice within Cain's heart. One fateful day, under a sky heavy with unspoken tension, Cain spoke to his brother. "Come, let's go out to the field." Abel, unsuspecting, followed. There, in the isolated quiet of the dawn, the first act of human violence shattered the nascent peace of the earth. Cain, with a heavy blow, struck Abel, and his brother fell to the ground, his life extinguished. The once vibrant earth, a stage for life, became the first witness to history's oldest crime, as Abel's blood soaked the ground, crying out silently to the heavens for justice. The unanswerable question. As Abel's blood cried from the earth, a powerful, all-knowing voice resonated in Cain's mind. "Where is your brother Abel?" Cain, trembling and stained with the horrific deed, attempted to deny his culpability, his voice cracking with fear and guilt. "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" But God, with stern and solemn authority, declared the inescapable truth. "What have you done? Listen! Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse, and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." The weight of divine judgment fell upon him, a profound curse and eternal banishment from the land he once tilled. Exiled and marked. Cain, overwhelmed by the pronouncement, expressed his fear. "My punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." In an act of divine protection, God placed a mark upon Cain, ensuring that no one who found him would strike him down. Cain departed, a solitary figure wandering the desolate lands of Nod, east of Eden, forever exiled. Yet amidst this deepening shadow, a new hope emerged for humanity. Adam and Eve conceived another son whom they named Seth, saying, "God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him." Thus, from this lineage, a different path for humanity would begin to unfold. A world consumed by darkness. Witness the chilling depths of humanity's corruption, where violence reigned supreme, and God himself looked upon his creation with profound sorrow. What ultimate judgment could such depravity provoke? As the generations swelled across the earth, so too did the tide of human wickedness. Violence was not merely an act. It was the very fabric of existence, staining every interaction, every thought. The moral decay reached such a pervasive state that it grieved the heart of the Creator. God looked upon the world he had so carefully crafted and saw only ruin, a testament to humanity's relentless descent into evil. A profound sadness enveloped the heavens, for the earth, once a pristine canvas, was now utterly corrupt. In a world lost to wickedness, one man stood apart. Meet Noah, chosen by God for a mission beyond comprehension, to build an ark and save a remnant from the coming global cataclysm. What incredible faith led him to obey? Amidst this overwhelming depravity, a solitary beacon of righteousness shone. Noah, a man blameless in his generation, walked with God. He found favor in the eyes of the Lord, a stark contrast to the corrupted masses. It was to this man that God's voice resonated, clear and solemn. "I have decided to put an end to all flesh, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth." The enormity of these words left Noah breathless, yet his faith was unshaken. Against a chorus of ridicule, Noah undertakes history's most impossible construction project. Witness the divine blueprint, the colossal scale of the ark, and the unwavering faith required to build a vessel for a world-ending flood. God's instructions were precise, a divine blueprint for survival. Build an ark of cypress wood. make rooms in it and coat it with pitch inside and out. The dimensions were colossal, unlike any vessel ever conceived. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, as Noah and his family toiled under the scorching sun. The world watched, not with understanding, but with scorn. "An ark in the middle of dry land?" his neighbors scoffed. "You're insane, Noah." Yet with every massive cypress log lifted, every beam secured, Noah's resolve only deepened. He was building not just a boat, but a vessel of hope, an act of obedience, in the face of inevitable judgment. The ark slowly rose, a silent challenge to a mocking world, its very existence an open question of the future. An unprecedented migration. Watch as creatures from every corner of the earth, guided by an invisible force, converge on the ark. This miraculous gathering heralds the final days before the flood, raising the stakes for all life. As the ark neared completion, a new, astonishing phenomenon began. From the farthest corners of the earth, animals of every kind began to move, as if drawn by an unseen hand. Elephants, lions, deer, and birds of every hue and size converged on the colossal structure. God's command was clear. Take with you 7 pairs of every clean animal, male and female, and a pair of the animals that are not clean, the male and its mate. Also 7 pairs of the birds of the heavens, male and female, to keep their offspring alive on the face of all the earth. Noah and his family, now accustomed to the miraculous, diligently guided each creature aboard. The air crackled with a strange urgency, the timing impeccable, the procession orderly, as the final days before the deluge ticked away. The sky cracks open. Witness the terrifying moment the great deep burst forth, and the heavens poured down, unleashing a global deluge. As the ark's doors seal, the screams of a world consumed by water mark the ultimate divine judgment. Then the sky darkened. The first raindrops fell, gentle at first, then quickly escalating into an unrelenting downpour. "Everyone inside!" Noah commanded, his voice firm amidst the rising wind. As his family entered, glancing back one final time at the world they were leaving behind, the colossal doors of the ark began to close, sealed by an unseen, powerful force. Droplets turned to torrents in mere seconds. The people outside, at first curious, then panicked, rushed towards the ark, desperately pounding on its impervious walls. "Let us in!" they cried, their voices filled with terror. But it was too late. The waters rose rapidly, swallowing cities, then hills, then mountains. The screams outside faded away, replaced by the unsettling roar of divine judgment, the creaking of wood, and the relentless sound of water. Adrift on an endless sea of destruction, experienced the harrowing 40 days and nights within the ark. A tiny vessel holding the last remnants of life, as the world outside is utterly consumed. Will they ever see dry land again? For 40 days and 40 nights the rain did not cease. The ark, a solitary vessel amidst an endless, raging sea, rose higher and higher above the submerged world. It floated above the highest mountains, a testament to God's power and Noah's obedience. Inside, a fragile ecosystem endured, a precious cargo of life, preserved from the overwhelming destruction. Noah and his family listened to the relentless sound of water, their hearts filled with a mixture of fear, awe, and a quiet, enduring hope. The outside world was a memory, a drowned silence, leaving them isolated yet miraculously sustained by divine will. After months of isolation, a fragile olive leaf becomes humanity's first symbol of hope. Witness Noah's desperate search for dry land, and the miraculous return of the dove, signaling a new beginning for a reborn world. Finally, after more than 5 months, the flood subsided, and the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. The waters gradually receded, but the earth remained hidden. Noah, shaking, opened a window and sent out a raven, but it found no rest. Then he sent a dove. It too returned. On the third attempt, the dove flew out once more, and as the sun began to warm the desolate landscape, it returned, not empty, but with a freshly plucked olive leaf in its beak. "The earth is dry," Noah announced, his voice filled with profound relief and hope. The small leaf, a monumental sign of new life emerging from the desolation. A vibrant rainbow arcs across a pristine sky, sealing God's eternal promise. Never again a global flood. Witness Noah and his family step onto a reborn earth, blessed to multiply, marking a new covenant for all generations. With the earth dry, God spoke once more. "Leave the ark, you and your wife, your sons and their wives. Bring out every kind of living creature that is with you, so they can multiply on the earth and be fruitful and increase in number." Noah and his family stepped onto the renewed earth, gazing at a world washed clean, bathed in the warm light of the sun. Then God declared, "I am making a covenant with you. Never again will I destroy all life with a flood. I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and the earth." A brilliant, colorful rainbow appeared in the sky, a breathtaking symbol of God's unwavering promise, an invisible thread of faithfulness woven into the very fabric of existence for all generations to come. United by a single language, humanity after the Great Flood began to multiply and settle in the fertile plains of Shinar. Here, a collective ambition, fueled by pride and a desire for lasting renown, took root. Under the leadership of Nimrod, a powerful figure, the people declared their audacious intent. "Let us build a city and a tower that reaches the heavens. We will make a name for ourselves, so we won't be scattered across the face of the earth." Bricks piled upon bricks, and the colossal tower began its imposing ascent toward the sky, a monument to human ingenuity and defiance. The construction site buzzed with a unified purpose, a singular voice driving an effort to transcend earthly limits and challenge the very domain of the divine. This grand project, born of human aspirations, set the stage for an inevitable reckoning, an open challenge to the heavens themselves. But in the heavens, God was watching. Observing humanity's unified ambition, the Lord saw that with one language, nothing they set out to do would be impossible for them. It was a perilous path, threatening to entirely thwart the divine command to fill the earth. Suddenly, without warning, the unified rhythm of construction shattered. A laborer, asking for more bricks, was met with an incomprehensible response. What was once clear communication turned into a torrent of unintelligible words. Confusion spread like wildfire, swift and devastating. Lifelong friends stared at each other with eyes full of despair. Orders from Nimrod himself could no longer overcome the cacophony of unknown tongues. In the blink of an eye, the very foundation of their unity dissolved into chaos. The grand project of Babel halted abruptly. The unfinished tower stood as a stark testament to human ambition and divine judgment. Now divided by the bewildering babel of languages, the groups of people began to separate. Entire families and communities, unable to understand one another, set off in different directions, seeking new lands where their common tongue could once again bind them. Humanity was scattered across the earth, fulfilling the very command they had sought to defy. From above, God watched the dispersal, his voice resonating with authority and sorrow. The tower became ruins, a stark reminder of the day God confused languages and scattered mankind, setting the stage for a new, singular covenant. This dispersal, though a judgment, was also a divine preparation, paving the way for God to choose one family, Abraham's, from the multitude, to begin a new chapter in his unfolding plan. Out of a pagan land, a voice echoes through the night. "Leave everything you know." Abraham, then Abram, was born in Ur of the Chaldeans, a bustling Mesopotamian city where life was defined by ancient rituals and a myriad of gods. His days were simple, yet a profound sense of destiny stirred within him. One night, under a canopy of countless stars that seemed as infinite as the cosmos itself, a divine voice, clearer and more powerful than any thunder, broke into Abraham's life. "Leave your homeland and your father's house," it commanded, "and go to the land I will show you." The voice carried an immense promise. "I will make you into a great nation. I will bless those who bless you, and curse those who curse you. Through you, all peoples on earth will be blessed." Abraham was left breathless, grappling with the enormity of such a call. How could an ordinary man be chosen for such an immense destiny, facing a future entirely unknown? This radical summons marked a definitive break from his past, an awe-inspiring challenge to embark on a journey of faith into the vast unknown. Every step, an act of faith. Follow Abraham's epic journey from Haran to the promised land of Canaan, a land of giants and fortified cities. At 75 years old, Abraham decided to face his fears and depart. "We're leaving," he announced to Sarai, his wife, his voice filled with determination. With a heart full of hope and a budding faith, he obeyed the Lord, setting out with Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all their accumulated possessions. Their caravan trekked across diverse landscapes, crossing Haran and finally reaching Canaan, a land of rolling hills and fertile valleys, yet also inhabited by the Canaanites in their formidable fortified cities. Abraham traveled through the country until he reached sacred Shechem beneath the majestic oak of Moreh. There the Lord appeared again, declaring, "To your offspring I will give this land." Moved by this renewed promise, Abraham built an altar, consecrating the ground, a testament to God's enduring covenant amidst the uncertainty of a new land. Famine strikes, forcing Abraham into a dangerous detour. Witness the patriarch's first lapse in faith, as fear for his life leads him to a perilous deception in the heart of Egypt. But soon, the promised land turned hostile. A severe famine struck Canaan, transforming the fertile soil into dust. Livestock perished, and provisions grew scarce. One night, under a sky offering no answers, Abraham made a difficult decision. "We'll go to Egypt," he announced, his doubts hidden behind a resolute gaze. The journey to Egypt would be dangerous, but staying meant certain death. As they approached the powerful Egyptian civilization, Abraham's human fear took hold. "I know you're a beautiful woman," he told Sarai, worriedly. "When the Egyptians see you, they'll say, 'She's his wife,' and kill me to have you. Please say you're my sister." Sarai, understanding the gravity of their predicament, nodded. This perilous deception, born of fear, would soon unleash unforeseen consequences. A royal blunder, a divine plague. Discover how God's unseen hand protected Abraham and Sarai, striking Pharaoh's house with affliction, forcing the king to confront the truth and expel them from Egypt. The covenant endures, despite human failings. Upon entering the opulent city of Egypt, all eyes were indeed fixed on Sarai's striking beauty. She was taken to Pharaoh's palace, and Abraham, as her supposed brother, received sheep, cattle, donkeys, servants, and camels as a reward. But the joy was short-lived. Mysterious plagues swiftly befell Pharaoh and his entire household, bringing chaos and despair. Furious and bewildered, Pharaoh confronted Abraham. "What have you done to me?" he demanded, indignant. "Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Your deception has brought curses upon me. Take your woman and leave my land." Ashamed but relieved, Abraham departed Egypt with Sarai and all their possessions, God's unseen protection having shielded them, despite his momentary lapse in faith. Prosperity brings division. Witness the parting of Abraham and Lot, as their immense wealth forces a choice of lands. Lot's fateful decision to settle near wicked Sodom foreshadows a coming storm. What consequences await his worldly choice? Back in Canaan, Abraham, Sarai, and their nephew Lot faced a new challenge. Their flocks and wealth had grown so extensively that the land could no longer support them all. Shepherds began to quarrel, and tension mounted, threatening to erupt into conflict between the families. In the midst of the chaos, Abraham calmly called Lot. "There must be no strife between us or our shepherds," he proposed. "We are family. Look at the land before us. If you go left, I'll go right. If you choose right, I'll go left." Lot surveyed the Jordan Valley, lush and fertile like Eden itself. "I'll choose the Jordan Valley," he declared, eager to prosper in those abundant lands. So they parted ways, Lot settling near Sodom, a city notorious for its wickedness, while Abraham remained in Canaan, a choice that would cast a long shadow over Lot's future. Alone in the vast expanse of Canaan, after the departure of his nephew Lot, Abraham stood upon the land God had promised. The silence that followed Lot's choice seemed to deepen the connection between the patriarch and the divine. Then the Lord spoke again, his voice resonating not with words heard by the ear, but with conviction deep within the soul. He commanded Abraham to lift his eyes and look in every direction, north, south, east, and west. For all the land he could behold, God would give to him and his offspring forever. And not only land, but descendants as numerous as the very dust of the earth, a promise as boundless as the horizon before him. This reaffirmation of the covenant, after a moment of human doubt and separation, solidified Abraham's purpose, anchoring his journey of faith in an unbreakable divine pledge. War erupted across the Fertile Crescent. 4 powerful kings from the east, led by Chedorlaomer, swept through the region, challenging the 5 kings of the Jordan Valley in the Valley of Siddim. Cities were plundered, armies defeated, and the landscape scarred by conflict. Amidst the chaos, a chilling report reached Abraham. Lot, his nephew, who had chosen to settle near the thriving yet wicked city of Sodom, had been captured. His family and all their possessions were seized, dragged away as spoils of war. This unexpected tragedy ignited a fierce urgency, transforming Abraham from a peaceful shepherd into a man of decisive action, as the fate of his kin hung precariously in the balance. The news of Lot's capture spurred Abraham into immediate action. The survivor, breathless and disheveled, brought the grim tidings to his camp. Without hesitation, Abraham mobilized his household, 318 trained men, born and raised in his service, loyal and ready. Under the shroud of night, they pursued the retreating armies, striking swiftly and decisively. The element of surprise shattered the confidence of the 4 kings, routing them in a chaotic, unexpected battle. Abraham, demonstrating not only leadership but formidable military prowess, recovered Lot, his family, and all the plundered goods. This triumphant rescue cemented his reputation and showcased his unwavering loyalty to his kin. In the King's Valley, after the dust of battle settled, Abraham was met by a mysterious figure, Melchizedek, king of Salem and priest of God Most High. With an air of ancient reverence, Melchizedek blessed Abraham, offering bread and wine, declaring, "Blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth. And praise be to God Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hand." In an act of profound spiritual significance, Abraham gave Melchizedek 1/10 of all the spoils. Subsequently, the king of Sodom offered Abraham all the recovered goods, but Abraham, with unwavering integrity, refused to take anything, declaring his commitment to relying solely on God's provision and honor. Under a vast, star-studded sky, God spoke to Abraham in a vision, reassuring him, "Fear not, Abraham, I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great." Yet Abraham, grappling with the absence of an heir, expressed his concern. "O Lord God, what will you give me, since I am childless?" God then led him outside, commanding him to gaze upon the heavens. "Look now toward heaven, and count the stars, if you are able to count them. So shall your descendants be." In that moment, Abraham believed the Lord, and his belief was credited to him as righteousness. This profound act of faith, in the face of human impossibility, solidified the covenant, promising a future as boundless as the cosmos. Years passed, and Sarai, Abraham's wife, remained barren, her heart heavy with the unfulfilled promise of a son. Impatient with the divine timeline, she proposed a human solution to Abraham. "Please go in to my servant Hagar. Perhaps I may obtain children by her." Abraham agreed, and Hagar, the Egyptian servant, conceived. With pregnancy came a shift in Hagar's demeanor. She began to despise her mistress, Sarai. The resulting conflict escalated, and Sarai, embittered by Hagar's insolence, mistreated her so severely that Hagar, pregnant and desperate, fled into the desolate wilderness. This human intervention, meant to hasten divine plans, only introduced discord and suffering into Abraham's household. Lost and despairing in the parched desert, Hagar collapsed by a spring, overwhelmed by her solitude and her uncertain future. But even in her abandonment, she was not unseen. An angel of the Lord found her, speaking words of comfort and instruction. "Return to your mistress and submit to her authority." Furthermore, the angel delivered a powerful prophecy. "Behold, you are with child, and you shall bear a son. You shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has heard your affliction. He shall be a wild donkey of a man. His hand shall be against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren." Hagar, witnessing this divine compassion, named the Lord the God who sees me, a testament to his omnipresent care, and returned to Abraham's camp with newfound strength and a promise for her unborn son. An unexpected visit changes everything. Abraham hosts 3 mysterious strangers, one of whom makes an impossible promise, a son to Sarai within a year. Witness the moment Sarai's disbelief turns to silent laughter, challenging the very notion of divine possibility. One afternoon, as the sun warmed the oaks of Mamre, Abraham looked up to see 3 men standing nearby. Without hesitation, he ran to meet them, bowing low to the ground in an act of profound hospitality. He urged them to rest under a tree, offering water to wash their feet, and promising to prepare a meal. Hurrying to his tent, Abraham instructed Sarai to quickly prepare the finest flour for bread. He then rushed to his herd, selected a tender calf, and had a servant prepare it. With curds, milk, and meat, he served a generous feast, standing by his mysterious guests under the tree as they ate. As they finished, one of the men spoke with authority, asking, "Where is Sarai, your wife?" Abraham replied, "There, in the tent." Then the voice continued, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarai, your wife, will have a son." From the tent entrance, Sarai listened, and a silent, incredulous laugh escaped her. How could she, withered by age, and her husband, old, possibly have such a pleasure? The fate of a city in Abraham's hands. Witness the incredible moment God reveals his plan to destroy wicked Sodom and Abraham's daring intercession, negotiating with the Almighty to spare the city for the sake of just 10 righteous souls. Can mercy prevail? As the mysterious visitors rose to depart, they looked toward Sodom, and Abraham walked with them to see them off. Then the Lord shared his plans with Abraham. The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, and their sins so grievous, that I will go down to see if their actions are as wicked as the reports reaching me. Abraham, moved by a deep concern that encompassed his nephew Lot, boldly stepped forward, asking, "Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked?" The fate of the cities hung in the balance, as Abraham persisted, "Suppose there are 50 righteous people in the city. Will you not spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous people there?" The Lord replied, "If I find 50 righteous people in Sodom, I will spare the whole city for their sake." Though Abraham considered himself but dust and ashes, he pressed on, negotiating with a reverence that acknowledged divine authority yet pleaded for mercy. He lowered the number from 50 to 45, then 40, then 30, then 20, and finally, with profound humility, "What if only 10 can be found?" The Lord concluded, "For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it." A solemn agreement was reached, but Abraham's heart remained heavy with fear, knowing his nephew Lot resided within those wicked walls. 2 mysterious strangers enter the wicked city of Sodom. Witness Lot's desperate act of hospitality, a beacon of righteousness amidst overwhelming depravity, as he invites the angels into his home. But the city's darkness is about to reveal itself. As evening fell upon Sodom, 2 angels, gleaming with a quiet power, entered the city gate. Lot, sitting there, immediately rose and approached them. "Please, my lords," he pleaded earnestly, "come to your servant's house for the night. You can wash your feet, and in the morning continue on your way." The angels initially demurred, stating they would spend the night in the square. But Lot, sensing the foreboding atmosphere of the city and insistent in his hospitality, pressed them. understanding the dangers that lurked in Sodom's shadows. Finally, they agreed and went to his house. There, Lot prepared a feast for them, baking unleavened bread, offering what comfort and safety he could to his divine guests, a quiet beacon of righteousness in a city steeped in ungodliness. A city consumed by evil. Witness the terrifying mob surrounding Lot's house, demanding the angels be surrendered for unspeakable acts. Lot's desperate pleas are ignored, as Sodom's depravity confirms its irreversible fate. The quiet meal was shattered. Before the angels and Lot could fully rest, a menacing mob of men, old and young, from every part of Sodom surrounded Lot's house. Their shouts filled the night, demanding, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out so that we can have relations with them." The air crackled with depravity. Lot, desperate to protect his guests, went outside to speak with them, closing the door behind him. "Please, my brothers," he begged, his voice trembling, "don't do this evil thing." But his desperate pleas were met with scorn. The enraged crowd responded, "Get out of our way! This foreigner came to live among us, and now he wants to be our judge? We'll treat you worse than them." They pressed against Lot, trying to break down the door, their wickedness confirming the reports of Sodom's irreversible fate. Miracle in the darkness. As the mob outside Lot's home is struck blind, the angels reveal their terrifying mission. Sodom's destruction is imminent. Witness the urgent command to flee, raising the stakes for Lot's entire family. As the mob surged, threatening to overwhelm Lot, the angels reached out, pulling Lot back inside the house. With a flash of divine power, they struck the men outside with blindness, from the least to the greatest. The mob, disoriented and stumbling, could no longer find the entrance, their shouts turning to confused cries. Inside, the angels revealed their terrifying mission to Lot. "We are going to destroy this place. The outcry against its inhabitants has reached the Lord, and he has sent us to destroy it." The urgency was absolute. They commanded Lot, "Do you have anyone else here? Get your family out of this place immediately." The stakes were raised, destruction was imminent, and Lot's family faced a desperate flight. Run for your lives. As dawn breaks, Lot's family hesitates, clinging to a doomed city. Witness the angels' forceful intervention, pulling them to safety with one terrifying command: don't look back. What forbidden sight could seal their fate? Lot rushed out into the night to gather his sons-in-law, who were promised to his daughters. "Hurry," he warned. "We must leave this place. The Lord is about to destroy the city." But they scoffed, mocking his words, believing he was joking. As dawn began to brighten the sky, Lot hesitated, perhaps still clinging to the familiarity of the doomed city. The angels, however, would not allow delay. They urged him, "Quick, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished." Lot still lingered, but the men, in an act of divine mercy, grasped his hand, along with his wife and daughters, and forcibly led them out of the city. Once outside, one of them issued a terrifying command: "Run for your lives. Don't look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the mountains, or you will be destroyed." The forbidden sight of the coming judgment loomed, threatening to seal the fate of any who disobeyed. The heavens unleash fire. Witness the terrifying destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, a cataclysmic rain of sulfur and flame that eradicates all life. But one forbidden glance seals a tragic fate. Lot's wife, a pillar of salt, a chilling warning for all time. As the sky began to brighten with the first rays of sunlight, Lot and his family ran as fast as they could towards the small town of Zoar. Then, with sudden, terrifying force, the Lord rained down sulfur and fire from the heavens upon Sodom and Gomorrah. It was a cataclysmic deluge, not of water, but of consuming flame. The earth convulsed, and the cities, the entire plain, all their inhabitants, and every last trace of vegetation on the ground were utterly destroyed. Amidst the chaos and the roaring inferno, Lot's wife, unable to resist the forbidden urge, looked back. In that instant, Her disobedience sealed her tragic fate. She turned into a pillar of salt, a chilling, silent monument to the consequences of a single longing glance, a stark warning etched into the landscape of divine judgment. From a distant hill, Abraham witnesses the horrifying aftermath, a plain consumed by smoke, a testament to divine justice. Yet, amidst the devastation, one man was spared. Discover how Abraham's intercession ultimately saved Lot, a powerful testament to God's remembrance and mercy. At daybreak, Abraham went to the place where he had stood before the Lord the previous day. He looked towards Sodom and Gomorrah, and indeed towards the entire plain. What he saw filled him with awe and horror. Thick smoke rose from the land, billowing like the fumes from a colossal furnace. The cities were gone, utterly consumed by divine judgment. A chill ran down his spine, confirming the terrible reality of the destruction. Yet, amidst this devastation, the Lord remembered Abraham. In his mercy, and in answer to Abraham's persistent intercession, God saved Lot from the catastrophic destruction that befell the cities where he had lived. The smoldering plain stood as a grim testament to divine justice, but Lot's miraculous escape was a powerful reminder of God's remembrance and enduring mercy. Hidden in a mountain cave, a desperate act unfolds. Lot's daughters, fearing isolation, commit a shocking deed that births two new nations, Moab and Ammon. Witness this disturbing episode, a dark shadow cast by Sodom's destruction, revealing the enduring complexities of human morality. After the destruction of Sodom, Lot and his two daughters fled to a cave in the mountains, fearing to live in Zoar. Isolated and convinced that no man was left on earth to preserve their lineage, the older daughter devised a desperate and shameful plan. "Our father is old," she said to her younger sister, "and there is no man on earth to lie with us, as is the custom everywhere. Come, let us get our father drunk with wine tonight, and we will lie with him, so that we may preserve our family line through our father." That night they made their father drink wine. The older daughter lay with Lot, who was unaware of her actions. The next night, the younger daughter did the same. Both daughters conceived, and in time bore sons. The older daughter named her son Moab, who became the father of the Moabites. The younger named her son Ben-Ami, who became the father of the Ammonites. This disturbing episode, born of desperation and moral darkness, cast a long shadow, giving rise to nations whose complex relationship with Israel would unfold for generations. A familiar deception, a near disaster. Abraham repeats his dangerous lie in Gerar, leading King Abimelech to take Sarai. But a divine dream intervenes, revealing the truth and averting a catastrophic sin. Witness God's unwavering protection, even amidst human failings. Abraham journeyed from the oaks of Mamre to the region of the Negev, settling as a foreigner in Gerar. There, he again introduced Sarai as his sister, a familiar deception born of fear. Abimelech, the king of Gerar, sent for Sarai and took her into his palace. But that night, God appeared to Abimelech in a dream, confronting him with a dire warning. "You are as good as dead because of the woman you have taken. She is a married woman." Startled, Abimelech replied, "Lord, would you destroy an innocent nation? Didn't he tell me, 'She is my sister'? And didn't she also say, 'He is my brother'? I have acted with a clear conscience and clean hands." God acknowledged his integrity, saying, "Yes, I know you did this with a clear conscience, and so I have kept you from sinning against me. Now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not return her, you may be sure that you and all who belong to you will die." This divine intervention, a testament to God's unwavering protection of his covenant, averted a catastrophic sin and set the stage for the imminent fulfillment of Abraham's promise. Against all odds, the impossible happens. Witness the miraculous birth of Isaac, the son of promise, bringing laughter and joy to Abraham and Sarah in their old age. This long-awaited event solidifies God's unwavering faithfulness. A year after the divine visitor's astounding pronouncement, the promise became tangible. God, in his infinite faithfulness, visited Sarah, and in her advanced years, she conceived and bore a son to Abraham. The camp rejoiced, a profound laughter filling the air, for the child of promise had arrived. Abraham, with a tender smile that spoke of decades of longing, named him Isaac, meaning he laughs. Sarah, cradling her newborn, her heart overflowing, exclaimed, "God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me." 8 days later, as commanded, Isaac was circumcised, sealing the covenant in joy and celebration. Joy turns to bitter rivalry. At Isaac's weaning feast, Ishmael's mocking ignites Sarah's fury, leading to an unthinkable demand. Banish Hagar and her son. What impossible choice now faces Abraham, threatening to break his heart? Years passed, and Isaac grew. When the time came for his weaning, Abraham held a grand feast, a joyous celebration of the promised heir. Yet, amidst the festivities, a shadow of discord fell. Sarah observed Ishmael, Hagar's son, mocking Isaac. The sight ignited a fierce indignation within her, a protective fury for her beloved child. With a hardened expression, she approached Abraham and delivered an unthinkable demand. "Send away this slave woman and her son. The son of this slave will not share the inheritance with my son Isaac." Her words were absolute, raising the stakes for the entire family, a father's agonizing choice. Abraham grapples with Sarah's demand to banish his firstborn son, Ishmael. But a divine voice intervenes, commanding obedience and reaffirming the covenant through Isaac, while promising a great future for Ishmael. What bittersweet farewell awaits! Abraham was taken aback, his heart heavy with distress. Ishmael, too, was his son, his firstborn. The thought of sending him away was agonizing, a profound moral dilemma. Restless, he left his tent under the cover of night, gazing at the myriad stars, seeking guidance. Then a soft yet firm voice echoed within him. "Do not be distressed about the boy and your servant. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, for it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned." God's words were clear, reaffirming the primary covenant, yet his compassion extended to Ishmael. "I will also make a nation of the son of the servant, because he is your offspring." Abraham found both sorrow and solace in the divine counsel. Exiled to the wilderness. Witness the heartbreaking moment Hagar and Ishmael are sent away, facing a desolate desert with dwindling supplies. As dehydration threatens, their desperate struggle for survival unfolds, raising the stakes for their very lives. At dawn, with a heavy heart, Abraham took bread and a skin of water. He approached Hagar's tent, his voice strained as he instructed her to leave. Hagar, with tears in her eyes, took Ishmael by the hand, and together they departed from Abraham's camp, walking away into the vast, empty desert of Beersheba. The sun beat down relentlessly, and the meager water supply quickly dwindled. Ishmael, weak and dehydrated, soon collapsed under the scorching sun, his young life threatened by the unforgiving wilderness. Their desperate struggle for survival had begun. On the brink of death, a desperate cry echoes through the desert. Witness God's miraculous intervention as an angel reveals a hidden well, saving Hagar and Ishmael from certain demise. This divine act reaffirms a future nation, even for the outcast. Hagar, unable to bear watching her son die, laid Ishmael under a bush and moved a short distance away, weeping bitterly. "My God, why?" she cried out in despair. Then a voice from heaven called to her. "What troubles you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the boy's voice where he is. Rise, lift the boy and hold him with your hand, for I will make him a great nation." Surprised, Hagar opened her eyes and saw a well of water that was not there moments before. She ran, filled the skin, and gave Ishmael a drink. Life returned to the boy's eyes, a miraculous relief confirming God's enduring compassion. From conflict to covenant. Witness Abraham's shrewd diplomacy as he forges a peace treaty with King Abimelech, securing his land rights and bringing an end to past tensions. This pivotal agreement marks a period of stability and growing influence for the patriarch. After these events, Abraham moved to Beersheba. There, Abimelech, the king of Gerar, along with Phicol, his commander, approached Abraham, acknowledging God's evident blessing upon him. They proposed a treaty, seeking a formal agreement to ensure peace between their peoples. Abraham, with shrewd diplomacy, made a covenant with Abimelech concerning a well, settling a dispute over water rights. He named the place Beersheba, the well of the oath, solidifying this pact. This period marked a return to stability and a secure status for Abraham in the land, a testament to his growing influence and God's continued protection. The ultimate test. God's voice breaks through the night with a command that would shatter any father's heart. Sacrifice your only son, Isaac, the child of promise. Witness Abraham's inner turmoil as he grapples with an unthinkable divine directive. How could he obey? One quiet night, as Abraham rested in his camp, a profound and devastating command broke through the silence. "Abraham," the Lord called. "Take your only son Isaac, whom you love so dearly, and go to the region of Moriah. Offer him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you." Abraham's soul was instantly filled with a storm of emotions. The command was unthinkable, a direct challenge to all he held dear, to the very promise of his lineage. How could God ask for the son through whom all promises flowed? His faith once again faced its ultimate test, a silent ascent towards an unthinkable sacrifice. Witness Abraham's agonizing 3-day journey to Mount Moriah, leading his beloved son Isaac, unaware of his fate. Every step is a testament to unwavering faith, even as a father's heart breaks. At dawn the next day, Abraham rose early, his resolve a heavy burden. He prepared the donkey, split wood for the burnt offering, and took his beloved son Isaac, along with 2 servants. Together they set out for the place God had designated. The journey was agonizingly silent, each step a testament to Abraham's unwavering yet profoundly conflicted faith. For 3 days they traveled, the weight of the command growing heavier with every mile. Finally, Abraham looked up, and in the distance he saw the mountain of Moriah, a stark silhouette against the horizon, awaiting its terrible purpose. Father and son climbed the mountain of sacrifice. Isaac's innocent question, "Where is the lamb?" pierces the silence, revealing Abraham's profound, heartbreaking faith. God will provide. The ultimate test of trust is about to unfold. Upon reaching the base of the mountain, Abraham instructed his servants to stay with the donkey, declaring, "The boy and I will go over there to worship, and then we will come back to you." He placed the wood for the burnt offering on Isaac's shoulders, while he himself carried the fire and the knife. As they walked in silence up the desolate slopes, Isaac, with innocent curiosity, spoke, "Father, we have the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Abraham, struggling to contain his emotions, replied with a profound, heartbreaking faith, "God will provide the lamb for the sacrifice, my son." The knife poised, a father's heart shattered. Witness the agonizing climax on Mount Moriah as Abraham prepares to obey, only for a divine voice to intervene at the last moment. A ram in the thicket, a miraculous substitute, seals the ultimate triumph of faith. They arrived at the place God had shown them. Abraham, with steady yet trembling hands, built an altar and arranged the wood. He then turned to Isaac, his eyes red with anguish, and bound his son, laying him on the altar. As Abraham raised his hand, gripping the knife to sacrifice his son, an urgent voice thundered from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham, do not lay a hand on the boy or do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." Abraham dropped the knife, a wave of indescribable relief washing over him. Looking up, he saw a ram caught by its horns in a thicket. Without hesitation, he took the ram and offered it as a burnt offering instead of his son, a miraculous provision, sealing the ultimate triumph of faith. A matriarch's farewell. After a life spanning 127 years, Sarah, the beloved wife of Abraham and mother of Isaac, passed away in Kiriath Arba, which is Hebron in the land of Canaan. Her departure marked a profound turning point, a somber moment in the unfolding saga of the promised lineage. Abraham mourned deeply, his heart heavy with the immense loss of his faithful companion. The somber camp reflected his grief, a testament to the enduring bond they shared. Her death, while sorrowful, necessitated a new step in the covenant, the securing of a permanent resting place within the land God had promised, a physical anchor for the future generations. This pivotal need would soon prompt Abraham to seek his first tangible foothold in Canaan. Abraham's first foothold in the Promised Land. Driven by the need to lay Sarah to rest, Abraham approached the Hittites, the people of the land, seeking a burial site. With dignity and resolve, he negotiated for a piece of ground, establishing his status as a sojourner yet a prince among them. Ephron the Hittite, owner of the cave of Machpelah, initially offered the land and cave freely. Yet Abraham, firm in his intent to truly own this sacred plot, insisted on paying the full, fair price. He weighed out 400 shekels of silver, a significant sum, and acquired the field of Ephron, with the cave, and all the trees within its boundaries. This pivotal acquisition was more than a burial site. It was Abraham's first secure property in the land of Canaan, a tangible step in the fulfillment of God's covenant, and a testament to his unwavering commitment to the divine promise, solidifying a legacy for future generations. A sacred mission begins. With Sarah laid to rest, Abraham, now old and well advanced in years, turned his thoughts to the future of his son. Isaac, the child of promise, needed a suitable companion to continue the sacred lineage. Abraham summoned his most trusted and loyal servant, Eliezer, entrusting him with a monumental task, to journey to his homeland Mesopotamia and find a wife for Isaac from among his own people, explicitly forbidding a Canaanite bride. Eliezer swore a solemn oath, placing his hand under his master's thigh, promising to fulfill this vital mission. With 10 camels laden with provisions and precious gifts, the caravan set out on the long and arduous road to Nahor, a quest to secure the future of God's chosen lineage, its outcome weighing heavily on the patriarch's heart. A desperate prayer answered. Upon reaching the city of Nahor, Eliezer halted his caravan by a well outside the city, where women came to draw water. The task was immense, and the choice critical. Eliezer, a man of profound faith, knelt and prayed, asking God for a divine sign. The woman who would not only offer him a drink, but also water his thirsty camels would be the one. Suddenly, a young woman of radiant beauty appeared. It was Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, son of Nahor, Abraham's own kin. She gracefully drew water, offering it to Eliezer, and then, unprompted, to all his camels, fulfilling every condition of his prayer. Amazement swept over the servant. God's perfect providence had been revealed, confirming her as the chosen bride for Isaac, securing the promised lineage. Love at first sight, divinely ordained. Eliezer, overjoyed, presented his request to Rebekah's family in Bethuel's house, recounting the miraculous signs and Abraham's profound desire. Rebekah's family, recognizing the hand of the Lord in this unfolding destiny, agreed. Rebekah, with courage and willingness, consented to return with Eliezer to a land and a man she had never seen. Meanwhile, in Canaan, Isaac was meditating in the field at dusk when the caravan approached. He looked up, and Rebekah, seeing him, covered herself with a veil. Their eyes met across the distance, and in that instant, a deep, unspoken connection formed. Isaac loved her, and in her presence he found profound comfort after the sorrow of his mother Sarah's death. Their union, born of divine providence and mutual affection, ensured the continuity of the covenant and the future of God's chosen people. From the womb, a battle begins. Rebekah, Isaac's wife, found her pregnancy arduous, marked by an unsettling struggle within her. Distressed by the constant turmoil, she turned to the Lord, seeking understanding for the intense conflict unfolding inside her. The divine answer was clear and profound. 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated. 1 people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. At birth, the prophecy began to unfold. Esau emerged first, covered in a reddish coat of hair, a man destined for the wilderness and the hunt, quickly becoming his father Isaac's favorite. But Jacob, the second-born, held his brother's heel as if already contending for what lay ahead. His quieter nature drew the affection of Rebekah, setting the stage for a lifetime of rivalry and a destiny intertwined by divine decree and human choice. A bowl of stew, a lifetime of regret. The contrasting paths of the brothers quickly became apparent. Esau, the rugged hunter, returned one day from the field, utterly exhausted and famished, his body craving immediate relief. Jacob, the quieter, more calculating brother, was at his tent, preparing a pot of lentil stew. Seeing his brother's weakness, Jacob seized the moment. He proposed a deal, Esau's sacred birthright, the privilege of the firstborn, in exchange for the steaming bowl of food. Esau, driven by immediate hunger and a profound disregard for his spiritual inheritance, impulsively agreed, sealing his fate with a swift oath. For a mere meal, the future of nations shifted, Jacob's cunning securing a destiny Esau carelessly discarded, setting a dangerous precedent for their brotherhood. A father's final wish. Years later, Isaac, now old and blind, felt the approach of his final days. He called for Esau, his favored elder son, instructing him to go hunting and prepare a savory dish, intending to bestow upon him the patriarchal blessing before his death. This blessing, a solemn and powerful pronouncement, carried immense spiritual and generational weight. Unknown to Isaac and Esau, Rebekah, ever vigilant and protective of Jacob, overheard the conversation. A hidden plot began to form in her mind, a daring scheme to manipulate the sacred moment and secure the blessing for her beloved younger son Jacob, a deception that would forever change the family's destiny. A father's senses betrayed, Rebekah acted swiftly, instructing Jacob to disguise himself as Esau. With goatskins covering his smooth skin to mimic his brother's hairiness, and wearing Esau's clothes to carry his scent, Jacob approached his blind father. His heart raced with a mix of fear and determination as Isaac's trembling voice greeted him. Though suspicious, noting Jacob's voice but feeling Esau's hairy hands, Isaac ultimately yielded to the deception. With solemn words, the patriarchal blessing flowed from Isaac's lips, granting Jacob dominion, the richness of the earth, and the servitude of nations. This momentous act of cunning fulfilled the prophecy that the older would serve the younger, but it unleashed a storm of sibling hatred, setting in motion a chain of events that would drive Jacob into exile. A cry of utter devastation. Minutes after Jacob's hurried departure, Esau returned from his hunt, his hands heavy with fresh game, his heart eager for his father's blessing. He prepared the savory dish and presented it to Isaac, asking for the promised benediction. But as Isaac tasted the food, a profound tremor seized his aged body. The realization struck him with the force of a thunderbolt. He had been deceived. The blessing was gone. Esau, upon hearing his father's trembling words, let out a bitter, heart-wrenching wail, echoing through the tent. "He has cheated me twice," he cried, the depth of his betrayal and loss turning to consuming fury. Isaac, too, was devastated, admitting there was no blessing left to bestow upon his firstborn. The stolen blessing had not merely stripped Esau of an inheritance, it had ignited a vengeful fire within him, leaving a stark, open loop of danger for Jacob. Death looms. Esau's burning rage, a storm of fury and humiliation, hardened into a deadly vow. "The days of mourning for my father are near," he muttered, his voice cold with intent. "Then I will kill my brother Jacob." But Rebekah, ever vigilant and acutely aware of her sons' volatile natures, overheard Esau's murderous threat. Without hesitation she acted, her protective instincts overriding all else. She urgently warned Jacob of the impending danger and commanded him to flee immediately. "Escape to my brother Laban in Haran," she urged, "and stay there until your brother's fury subsides." Jacob's forced flight marked a clear pivot in his life, ending his days of cunning comfort and launching him into a period of trials and uncertainty. The immediate threat to his life raised the stakes for his journey into the unknown. Exile and regret. Jacob left everything behind: the familiar tents, the comforting presence of his mother, and the land promised to his forefathers. He walked alone through the desolate desert, a solitary figure under the vast, indifferent sky. The weight of his deception, the cunning that had secured his blessing, now pressed heavily upon his shoulders, a bitter companion on his forced journey. Each step carried him further from home, further from the security he had known, into an uncertain future. He was vulnerable, exposed to the elements and the lingering threat of his brother's wrath. The physical dangers of the wilderness mingled with the emotional burden of his actions, a profound solitude that stripped him bare. Will God's promise still follow him into this barren wilderness, a question echoing in the vast emptiness? Alone and afraid, Jacob laid down to sleep in that desolate wilderness, using a stone for a pillow as night fell. Suddenly, something extraordinary occurred. In his dreams, a magnificent ladder stretched from earth to heaven, and upon it, angels of God ascended and descended. At the very top stood the Lord himself, his voice resonating over Jacob, powerful and clear. "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac," he declared, majestically reaffirming the Abrahamic covenant. He promised Jacob the land on which he lay, countless descendants, and unwavering protection wherever he went. Jacob awoke, filled with awe and reverence. "Surely the Lord is in this place," he exclaimed, naming the spot Bethel, the house of God. This transformative encounter breathed new hope into his solitary exile, providing divine reassurance and weaving an invisible thread of God's continued covenant, guiding him toward Haran. A chance encounter, a destiny revealed. Witness Jacob's arrival in Haran and his fateful meeting with Rachel at the well. A powerful act of service and an instant connection ignite a love that will drive Jacob's life for decades. But not all loves are easily won. After days of solitary travel, Jacob finally reached the land near his uncle Laban's home. There, beside a well, several shepherds waited, their flocks gathered, for the heavy stone to be rolled away so they could water their animals. Jacob approached them, inquiring about his uncle Laban. As he spoke, a young woman, radiantly beautiful, drew near with her flock. It was Rachel, Laban's daughter. In an instant, Jacob felt a deep connection. With a strength he had never shown before, he rolled away the heavy stone from the well's mouth and watered Rachel's flock. A love-struck bargain. Jacob pledges 7 years of tireless labor for the hand of Rachel, the woman who captured his heart. Witness the depth of his devotion as years of toil feel like mere days, driven by the promise of true love. But will Laban honor his word? Jacob, his heart captivated, then revealed his identity to Rachel, who, surprised and excited, ran to tell her father Laban. Laban, upon hearing his nephew had arrived, rushed to greet him, embracing him warmly and bringing him into his home. Jacob began working for his uncle, but with each passing day, his desire to be with Rachel grew. After a month, Laban made him an offer. "It's not right for you to work for me without pay. Tell me what wages you want." Without hesitation, Jacob replied, "I'll work for you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter." Laban agreed. A wedding night of betrayal. After 7 years of devoted labor, Jacob is cruelly deceived as Laban substitutes Leah for Rachel. Witness the morning's horrifying revelation, a profound betrayal that plunges Jacob into rage and a new 7-year servitude. Jacob's days were filled with hard work, but his heart was full of hope and love for Rachel. Finally, the day arrived. The wedding was prepared, and Jacob, eager to receive Rachel as his wife, celebrated the union with a grand feast. But that night, under the cover of darkness, Laban committed a deception Jacob could never have anticipated. Instead of Rachel, he brought Leah, his older daughter, to Jacob's bed. When morning came, Jacob discovered the cruel truth. His own uncle had deceived him, just as he had deceived his brother years ago. The price of love, another 7 years. Laban justifies his deception, forcing Jacob into a second, agonizing term of labor for Rachel. Witness Jacob's heartbroken resolve, now bound to two sisters and a lifetime of complex family dynamics, all for the woman he truly loves. Jacob, enraged, confronted Laban. "What have you done to me? Didn't I work for Rachel? Why have you deceived me?" Laban, calm and unremorseful, replied, "It's not our custom to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older one. Finish this week of wedding celebrations with Leah, and I'll give you Rachel too, in exchange for another 7 years of work." Jacob's heart was shattered, but his love for Rachel was stronger than his anger. He accepted the deal, and a week later he married Rachel, knowing full well that his life was now bound to more years of hard labor under the watchful eye of his cunning uncle. Unloved but blessed. Witness God's compassion for Leah as she bears Jacob's first 4 sons, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, the future patriarchs of Israel. Each birth brings a desperate hope for Jacob's love, intensifying the growing family rivalry. As time passed, Jacob found himself trapped in a new struggle. He loved Rachel deeply, but Leah was his wife too. God, seeing Jacob's disdain for Leah, blessed her with children, while Rachel remained barren. Leah gave birth to Reuben, expressing a hope that Jacob would now love her. Then came Simeon, followed by Levi, and finally Judah, with Leah exclaiming gratitude to the Lord with each birth. Yet, despite having given him 4 sons, Leah watched sadly as Jacob continued to love Rachel more than her, intensifying the tension in Jacob's household day by day. Consumed by envy and despair, Rachel, barren and desperate, resorts to a drastic measure, offering her servant Bilhah to Jacob to bear children. Witness the birth of Dan and Naphtali, and Rachel's bittersweet triumph in the escalating sisterly rivalry. Meanwhile, Rachel, desperate to bear Jacob children, sought a solution. In an act of deep frustration, she offered Jacob her servant Bilhah, hoping that through her she could have offspring. Jacob agreed, and Bilhah bore 2 sons. Rachel, though not their biological mother, considered them as her own. With the birth of Dan, she exclaimed, "God has judged me," and with Naphtali, "I have had a great struggle with my sister, and I have won." But that victory was far from enough to fill the void she felt in her heart, and the rivalry between the 2 sisters intensified. The rivalry deepens. Leah, determined not to be outdone, follows Rachel's lead, offering her servant Zilpah to Jacob. Witness the births of Gad and Asher, adding more sons to Jacob's growing family and intensifying the fierce competition for his affection and legacy. Leah, seeing she had stopped bearing children, refused to be left behind. She too offered her servant Zilpah to Jacob. Zilpah conceived and gave birth to 2 more sons. Gad, with Leah declaring, "What good fortune!" and Asher, with Leah proclaiming, "Happy am I." The household became a complex tapestry of relationships, each woman vying for Jacob's affection and legitimacy through their children. Jacob, caught in the middle, watched his family grow in number, but peace seemed to slip further and further away. Leah's triumph, Rachel's agony. Witness Leah's final births to Jacob, Issachar, Zebulun, and their only daughter Dinah, completing her family. Yet Rachel's desperate longing for her own child casts a profound shadow, intensifying the emotional stakes of Jacob's household. Years passed, and Leah, as if touched by God's hand, once more conceived. She gave birth to Issachar, then Zebulun, and finally a daughter named Dinah. Leah's quiver was full, a testament to God's continued compassion for her. Yet Rachel's longing cast a deep shadow over the family. Her pain, frustration, and helplessness in the face of infertility tormented her day and night. The emotional stakes in Jacob's household reached a peak, as the future of the promised lineage seemed to hang in a delicate balance, a miracle in the midst of despair. After years of agonizing barrenness, God remembered Rachel, and she gave birth to Joseph, the son of her deepest longing. Witness the moment her shame was lifted, igniting a new chapter of hope and foreshadowing a destiny far grander than any could imagine. God heard Rachel's persistent cries, and in a moment of divine grace, he opened her womb, she conceived and bore a son, bringing profound joy to Jacob. Rachel, cradling the newborn, exclaimed with tears of happiness, "God has taken away my shame." She named him Joseph, a name that echoed her hope, saying, "May the Lord add another son." With Joseph's arrival, a new chapter of hope and profound happiness unfolded in Jacob's heart, for this was the child of the woman he loved most. The call to return home. After 2 decades, Jacob felt the shift in Laban's household and received a divine command: return to your father's land. Witness the secret preparations for a mass exodus, but a hidden act of rebellion would soon unleash Laban's fury. With the birth of Joseph, Jacob's heart yearned for his homeland, Canaan. He had amassed great wealth under Laban's roof, but he observed the growing envy and resentment in Laban's sons, and Laban's own attitude had clearly changed. It was then that God spoke directly to Jacob, commanding him to return to his father's land and promising his unwavering presence. This divine directive ignited a spark in Jacob's heart. It was time to leave. A secret escape. A stolen secret. Jacob fled Laban's house under the cover of night, but Rachel carried a hidden burden: her father's stolen household gods. Witness Laban's furious pursuit, setting the stage for a tense confrontation fueled by betrayal and ancient idols. At dawn, with the sun barely cresting the horizon, Jacob, his wives, children, and vast herds of livestock silently departed for Canaan. However, Jacob harbored a secret, though not his own. Unbeknownst to him, Rachel had stolen her father's household gods, the teraphim, before their departure. When Laban discovered the flight and the missing idols, his heart burned with fury, and he immediately gathered his men to pursue them. A 7-day chase ends in a tense standoff. Laban, burning with fury, pursued Jacob, but a divine dream intervened, binding his hands from violence. Witness the dramatic confrontation in Gilead, where unspoken tensions were finally brought to light. For 7 days, Laban relentlessly pursued Jacob and his caravan. His heart was consumed with rage, determined to exact justice. But in the dead of night, God appeared to Laban in a dream, warning him sternly, "Be careful what you say to Jacob. Do not interfere with his affairs." These divine words halted Laban's momentum, yet did not quell his desire for a confrontation. Finally, Laban caught up with Jacob in the mountains of Gilead, his shout shattering the camp's silence. Decades of resentment explode. Jacob confronted Laban, unleashing years of suppressed anger over his uncle's repeated deceptions and unfair wages. Witness Jacob's powerful defense, revealing his unwavering trust in God's protection amidst human treachery. Laban confronted Jacob, accusing him of deceit and of carrying off his daughters as if they were captives of war. Jacob, however, responded forcefully, his voice laced with years of suppressed frustration. He recounted his 2 decades of arduous labor, the 14 years for Laban's daughters and 6 for his flocks, and how Laban had changed his wages 10 times. Jacob declared that if not for the God of his father, he would have been sent away empty-handed, attributing his prosperity to divine intervention. A hidden secret. A clever ruse. As Laban frantically searched Jacob's camp for his stolen household gods, Rachel's cunning saved the day, concealing the idols with a clever excuse. Witness the tense moments as the truth hung by a thread, averting discovery and deepening the family's complex secrets. After Jacob's impassioned defense, Laban, still grasping for control, demanded, "And what of my gods? Someone has stolen my idols." Jacob, unaware of Rachel's actions, defiantly replied, "Search the camp. If you find anything of yours, let the guilty one die." Laban began a methodical search through the tents. When it was Rachel's turn, she cleverly sat upon her camel's saddle, where she had hidden the idols, claiming menstrual impurity prevented her from rising. Unsuspecting, Laban withdrew, and the idols remained undiscovered. A covenant in the wilderness. After years of deception and conflict, Jacob and Laban finally forged a fragile peace, establishing a stone pillar as a witness to their separation. Witness this pivotal farewell, freeing Jacob to face his greatest fear, the looming reunion with his brother Esau. With the confrontation resolved and the idols hidden, Jacob and Laban knew they could not continue in such animosity. On the mountains of Gilead, in a solemn act, they made a covenant. They swore not to harm each other, sealing their final separation. Jacob set up a stone pillar as a witness to their pact, and together they ate a meal in peace. Though past wounds still smoldered, Laban departed for his homeland, and Jacob, finally free from his uncle's influence, resumed his journey toward Canaan. The past returns with a vengeance. As Jacob journeys home, the haunting memory of Esau's murderous vow becomes a terrifying reality. His brother approaches with 400 men. Witness Jacob's utter dread as he faces his greatest fear, his life and family hanging in the balance. Jacob, now free from Laban's watchful eye, resumed his journey towards the promised land of Canaan. Yet the weight of his past deception and his brother Esau's wrath burdened his heart. The memory of Esau's vow to kill him, made years ago, haunted his every step. The air filled with an unspoken dread. Then the messengers returned, their faces etched with terror, bearing news that shattered any hope of a peaceful return. Esau was coming to meet him, and with him, 400 men. The threat was immediate, palpable, and overwhelming. Strategic gifts, desperate prayer. Witness Jacob's frantic preparations to appease his vengeful brother Esau, sending wave after wave of livestock ahead. But his greatest act is a fervent prayer, clinging to God's promises in the face of overwhelming fear. Will it be enough? Desperate, Jacob devised a plan. He divided his family and all his vast possessions into 2 groups, hoping that if Esau attacked one, the other might escape. He then prepared an extravagant gift, flocks of goats, sheep, camels, cattle, and donkeys, sending them ahead in waves, hoping each gift would soften Esau's heart before their final encounter. In the midst of these frantic preparations, Jacob fell to his knees, pouring out his heart to God. He reminded the Almighty of his promises of protection and deliverance, clinging to divine assurance in his moment of greatest fear. Alone in the darkness, a primal struggle begins. After sending his family across the Jabbok, Jacob is ambushed by a mysterious figure. Witness the fierce all-night wrestling match, a battle for survival and destiny against an unknown supernatural foe. Who is this attacker? Night fell, a blanket of total darkness and silence settling over the plains. Jacob gathered his 2 wives and 11 children, guiding them across the ford of Jabbok, a stream with cold, rushing waters. Once his family and all their belongings were safely on the other side, Jacob returned, finding himself utterly alone. Suddenly, a mysterious figure appeared out of the darkness. Without a single word, the stranger attacked, and Jacob found himself locked in a fierce, silent struggle that would last until the breaking of dawn. A bone-shattering blow. As the mysterious struggle intensifies, Jacob's hip is dislocated, yet he refuses to yield without a blessing. Witness his desperate cry, a testament to his unwavering will, leading to a profound revelation and a new identity. The stranger's strength was supernatural, yet Jacob, driven by an unknown resolve, refused to yield. Hours passed, neither gaining the upper hand. Then, in a sudden, powerful move, the mysterious figure touched Jacob's hip socket, instantly dislocating it. The pain was excruciating, a searing agony, but still, Jacob clung on, his grip unwavering. Panting, his brow drenched in sweat, he cried out into the darkness, his voice filled with desperation and power. "I will not let you go unless you bless me." A new name, a new destiny. As dawn breaks, the mysterious figure bestows upon Jacob a powerful new identity. Israel, meaning wrestles with God. Witness the profound transformation of a man who grappled with the divine and prevailed, forever changing his path and his people's future. The mysterious figure spoke with authority. "What is your name?" Jacob, exhausted but resolute, replied, "Jacob." Then came the pronouncement that would forever change his destiny. "Your name shall no longer be Jacob but Israel, for you have wrestled with God and with humans, and have prevailed." As the first rays of dawn lit up the eastern sky, the figure vanished, leaving Jacob limping from the dislocated hip, but profoundly transformed. His name, his identity, and his future had been forever changed in that dark encounter. Years of fear, moments of grace. Witness the highly anticipated yet terrifying reunion of Jacob and Esau. Instead of vengeance, Esau runs, embraces, and weeps with his brother. A powerful act of forgiveness, breaking the cycle of hatred and proving reconciliation is possible. Jacob, now Israel, limped across the river and rejoined his family, knowing the most dreaded moment of his life was about to arrive, the reunion with his brother Esau. Moving ahead of his family, he advanced toward the horizon. At last he saw Esau's figure approaching with his 400 men. The air was thick with tension, time seeming to slow. But what happened next was a testament to the transformative power of forgiveness. Esau ran toward him, embracing him fiercely. Jacob, eyes squinting with fear, felt the strength of his brother's arms, and they wept together, years of bitterness washing away in a flood of tears. Reconciliation forged. Paths diverge. After their emotional reunion, Jacob and Esau respectfully agree to travel separately. Witness their peaceful farewell as Esau returns to Seir and Jacob continues towards Canaan, forever changed by their encounter. A new chapter begins for both brothers. After their profound reunion, Esau suggested they travel together. "Come with me, Jacob," he urged. "I'll protect you. Let's move forward together." But Jacob, cautious and mindful of his large family and tender flocks, gently declined. "My Lord knows the children are weak," he explained, "and I have sheep and cattle that are nursing. If they're forced to go too quickly, they'll die. Please, let me advance at my own pace." Esau accepted his brother's request, and after a peaceful farewell, their paths diverged once again. Esau returned to Seir, while Jacob continued his journey, carrying the promise of a blessed future. Finally home. Jacob, now Israel, arrives in the promised land of Shechem, establishing his camp and building an altar to God. Witness this moment of peace and settlement, a testament to God's faithfulness, but a deceptive tranquility soon to be shattered by unforeseen tragedy. Jacob, forever changed by his encounter at Jabbok and his reconciliation with Esau, finally arrived in Shechem, a fertile valley in the land of Canaan. This place, nestled between the majestic mountains of Ebal and Gerizim, was sacred to his people. Here, Jacob purchased a plot of land, knowing this was a good place to settle his growing family. He set up his camp and, in an act of profound gratitude and worship, built an altar to the Lord, calling it El Elohe Israel, God, the God of Israel. A period of peace and stability seemed to have settled over his household. An innocent outing turns to horror. Dinah, Jacob's only daughter, ventures into the city of Shechem, only to be brutally violated by the prince. Witness the shocking act that shatters family peace and ignites a furious demand for justice. The quiet of Jacob's camp in Shechem was soon to be shattered. Dinah, Leah's daughter, in her youthful innocence, went out to meet the women of the region, seeking connection beyond her family's tents. But the city of Shechem, with its bustling life and hidden dangers, offered no safety. Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite prince of the land, saw her. His gaze, devoid of respect, quickly turned to lust. In a brutal act of power and selfishness, he seized her, taking her by force and extinguishing her innocence. The peace that Jacob's family had found in this land was irrevocably broken, replaced by an unspeakable violation that would demand a reckoning, from brutality to twisted desire. After his horrific act, Shechem falls in love with Dinah and desperately seeks her hand in marriage. Witness this morally unsettling proposal, setting the stage for Jacob's sons, furious response, and a cunning plan for revenge. Yet, after his terrible deed, something unexpected stirred within Shechem. He found himself drawn to Dinah, a desire that he mistook for love. He spoke kindly to her, though his actions had been anything but. Overcome by his infatuation, he pleaded with his father Hamor to secure Dinah as his wife. This morally complex proposal, born from violence, was now presented as a request for union, a demand that would soon reach Jacob's sons and ignite a dangerous fury. The shadow of the crime now extended into a chilling proposition. Fury ignites a deadly plot. Jacob's sons, enraged by Dinah's violation, devise a cunning and brutal scheme. Witness their deceptive demand for universal circumcision, a hidden trap designed to unleash a horrifying vengeance upon the entire city of Shechem. When Jacob learned of the tragedy, his heart was heavy with pain, but his sons, returning from the fields, were consumed by uncontrollable fury. Their sister's dishonor was an intolerable offense to their family's honor. As Hamor and Shechem approached, proposing marriage and intermarriage between their peoples, Jacob's sons devised a cunning, deceptive plan. They presented a seemingly honorable condition. If all the men of Shechem would be circumcised, then their peoples could unite. Blinded by Shechem's desire for Dinah and Hamor's eagerness for peace and prosperity, the Shechemites accepted, utterly unaware of the deadly trap that had been set. Bloodshed in the night. 3 days after their mass circumcision, the men of Shechem are helpless. Witness Simeon and Levi unleash their brutal vengeance, slaughtering every male, including the prince and his father. A shocking massacre, born of fury, plunging Jacob's family into mortal danger. 3 days passed, and the pain from the circumcisions weakened all the men of Shechem, leaving them vulnerable and incapacitated. It was then that Simeon and Levi, 2 of Jacob's sons, took up their swords. Under the cover of night, with uncontrollable fury, they moved from house to house, slaying every male inhabitant of the city. Shechem, the prince, and his father Hamor fell before their blades. Blood ran through the streets, and the city, which had trusted in a false promise of peace, was plunged into chaos. The remaining brothers joined the assault, plundering the city, taking women, children, and goods, transforming dishonor into a brutal massacre. Fury meets condemnation. Jacob confronts his sons, horrified by their brutal massacre, fearing swift retribution from the surrounding nations. But his sons remain defiant. Witness Jacob's desperate decision to flee Shechem, seeking refuge and divine protection from the looming threat of vengeance. Jacob, upon witnessing the aftermath of the slaughter, shuddered. The spilled blood would bring not peace but war. He looked at his sons, their hands stained with blood, and with a mixture of despair and anger, he rebuked them. "You have made me a stench to the people of this land," he declared, fearing that their small number would be overwhelmed if the surrounding nations united against them. But his sons, still filled with rage, remained defiant, replying, "Should our sister have been treated like a prostitute?" The danger was real and imminent. Jacob knew they could no longer stay in Shechem. They had to leave before vengeance caught up with them. Back to Bethel, where destiny was first revealed. Jacob returns to the sacred site of his latter dream, and God appears once more, powerfully reaffirming the covenant of nations and kings, even amidst the shadows of recent violence. A renewed promise for a troubled family. Driven by the lingering threat of retaliation, Jacob and his family journeyed to Bethel, the sacred place where years ago Jacob had seen the stairway to heaven and wrestled with God. At Bethel, God appeared to him again, speaking in a deep, authoritative voice. "Be fruitful and multiply," the divine voice commanded. "A nation, even a community of nations, shall come from you, and kings shall spring from your line." These words, echoing the promise made to Abraham and Isaac, confirmed that despite the violence and chaos brought by his sons, the divine covenant would continue through Jacob and his descendants. Overwhelmed by the magnitude of the promise, Jacob erected an altar in Bethel, anointing the stone with oil, marking the spot where God had renewed his covenant. A bittersweet birth, a heartbreaking loss. On the road to Bethlehem, Rachel, Jacob's beloved, gives her last breath in childbirth, naming her son, "Son of my sorrow." Witness Jacob's profound grief as he renames the child Benjamin, a symbol of enduring hope amidst personal tragedy. The last of the 12 sons is born. As the journey continued, a dark shadow began to cloud their path. Rachel, the woman Jacob loved above all others, started to feel the pains of labor, but something was terribly wrong. Fear reflected in her eyes as Jacob watched helplessly. The caravan halted, and Rachel's cries filled the air. The midwife, though trying to comfort her with the news, "Fear not, you have a son," could not ease Rachel's consuming pain. In her final moments, as life slipped away, Rachel named her son Ben-Oni, meaning, "son of my sorrow." Jacob, devastated by the loss of his beloved, could not accept this fate for his son. Holding the newborn in his arms, he changed the name his dying wife had given. "He will not be Ben-Oni," he declared, his voice breaking with grief. "He will be Benjamin, meaning son of fortune, or son of my right hand." Though the birth was marked by profound sorrow, Jacob wanted his son to grow under a blessing, not a misfortune. The patriarch's final rest. Isaac, the son of promise, passes away at 180, bringing Jacob and Esau together in a shared moment of mourning. Witness their final act of unity as they bury their father, solidifying the transition of the covenant's immense weight onto Jacob and his 12 sons. The road led Jacob back to Mamre, a sacred place for his father and family. Isaac, Jacob's father, lived to the ripe age of 180, and when his final day came, Jacob felt a chapter closing. The family patriarch had departed, but his legacy of faith and obedience was deeply rooted in his children. News of Isaac's death brought Esau, his brother, back into Jacob's life. Despite their past, they united to bid farewell to their father. Together, they carried Isaac's body to its final resting place, in the cave of Machpelah, the family tomb. As the tomb sealed over Isaac, Jacob felt the weight of responsibility fully upon him. God's promise, passed from Abraham to Isaac, now rested on his lineage. He was the father of 12 sons, the patriarchs of Israel, 12 tribes through whom God's people would flourish. Jacob looked at his sons and saw the future. Each carried not just his blood, but the weight of a divine destiny. God's covenant was not just with him, but with his offspring, as it had been with his grandfather Abraham before him. A father's favoritism ignites a fire of jealousy. In Jacob's sprawling camp, among his many sons, one figure consistently drew a disproportionate share of his affection: Joseph, the son of his beloved Rachel. This young man, vibrant and full of life, stood apart. As a token of this profound love, Jacob gifted Joseph a magnificent coat, woven with many colors, a garment that visibly proclaimed his favored status. This symbol of love, however, became a constant, searing reminder to his older brothers of their father's preferential treatment. Day after day, their eyes followed Joseph, and within their hearts, deep jealousy and bitter resentment began to stir, foreshadowing a deep division that would soon escalate into betrayal. Dreams of destiny, seeds of hatred. The simmering animosity found new fuel in Joseph's own prophetic visions. One night, gathered by the camp's fire, Joseph recounted a dream to his brothers. They were binding sheaves in the field, when suddenly his sheaf rose and stood upright, while their sheaves bowed down to his. Anger flared in their eyes. "Do you indeed intend to reign over us?" they demanded. Undeterred, Joseph shared a second, even bolder dream. The sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed down to him. Even Jacob, his father, grew uneasy, pondering the profound implications. Yet he kept these words in his heart. These powerful dreams infuriated Joseph's brothers further, fueling their jealousy and setting in motion a deadly plot to silence the dreamer forever. Death in the desert. Far from home, tending their flocks in distant pastures, Joseph's brothers saw him approaching. He wore his colorful coat, a vibrant target against the arid landscape, a constant reminder of their father's favoritism and Joseph's audacious dreams. The sight was too much. Their simmering hatred boiled over into a murderous plot. "Here comes the dreamer," they sneered, their voices laced with malice. "Let's kill him and throw his body into one of these pits. We can say a wild animal devoured him, and then we'll see what becomes of his dreams." Their chilling conspiracy aimed to erase his prophetic future, but one brother harbored a different, secret plan. A glimmer of mercy, a deepening betrayal. As the brothers' murderous resolve hardened, Reuben, the eldest, intervened. "Let's not shed blood," he urged, his voice seeking to dissuade them from outright murder. "Throw him into this desert pit instead, but don't harm him directly." His secret intention was to rescue Joseph later, to return him to their grieving father. The brothers, swayed by this less direct form of cruelty, agreed. Without mercy, they stripped Joseph of his vibrant coat, ignoring his desperate pleas, and cast him into the empty pit. Joseph lay alone and terrified at the bottom, his cries unheard by his indifferent brothers, his rescue now uncertain. From pit to chains. As Joseph lay abandoned in the pit, his brothers sat down to eat, indifferent to his distress. Then, a caravan of Ishmaelite merchants appeared on the horizon, heading to Egypt. Judah, ever pragmatic, saw an opportunity. "What do we gain by killing him?" he suggested. "Let's sell him to these Ishmaelites. After all, he is our flesh and blood." The chilling transaction was swift. For 20 pieces of silver, Joseph was pulled from the pit, his desperate pleas for freedom ignored. He was dragged away to Egypt, a slave in chains, his dreams seemingly shattered forever, his path now veering into an unknown and perilous future. A bloody lie, a father's heartbreak. The brothers returned home, bearing Joseph's colorful coat. With cold deliberation, they stained it with goat's blood, crafting a cruel deception. They presented the gruesome garment to Jacob, weaving a fabricated tale of a wild animal's savage attack. "We found this," they feigned. "Is it your son's coat?" Jacob immediately recognized it. His world shattered. He tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and wept inconsolably for his beloved son. "Joseph is surely torn to pieces," he cried, refusing all comfort. He believed his dearest son was dead, and the weight of his son's deception bound the entire family in profound sorrow, an open wound that would fester for years. From slave to manager, Joseph, dragged away from his homeland and family, found himself in Egypt, sold to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard. Despite his unjust enslavement and the profound loss he endured, Joseph was never truly alone. God's unwavering presence was with him, and everything he did prospered. Potiphar, a discerning man, quickly noticed there was something special about Joseph, a divine blessing on his efforts. He soon put Joseph in charge of his entire household, entrusting him with managing all his affairs. Joseph's diligence and God's favor led to remarkable success, raising the stakes for his integrity in a foreign and complex land. A dangerous temptation, a devastating lie. Joseph's remarkable rise in Potiphar's household did not go unnoticed, particularly by Potiphar's wife. Attracted by his youth, handsomeness, and success, she sought to seduce him daily. Joseph, however, stood firm in his unwavering integrity and loyalty, both to his master and to God. He consistently refused her advances, declaring, "My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" One day, when Joseph was alone in the house, she seized him by his cloak and attempted to force herself upon him. Joseph fled, leaving his cloak in her grasp. Enraged and humiliated by his refusal, she falsely accused him of assault. This devastating lie stripped him of his freedom, casting him into the darkest prison, his unwavering faith his only shield. From favored manager to forgotten prisoner, Joseph, once a trusted steward, now found himself unjustly cast into the deepest dungeon. Yet, even in the depths of this despair, God's unwavering favor shone through. The dark prison walls could not contain the divine blessing that rested upon him. The warden, impressed by Joseph's character and diligence, soon recognized his extraordinary capabilities. He entrusted Joseph with the management of all the other inmates and the affairs of the prison itself. Thus, Joseph, the enslaved dreamer, rose to a position of authority even within his chains, a testament to his enduring spirit and the constant presence of a guiding hand. But his true destiny awaited beyond these chains, an invisible thread pulling him towards a greater purpose. In the shadow of a dungeon, destiny began to stir. Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and chief baker, having offended the king, were also cast into the same prison where Joseph served. Both men experienced strange, troubling dreams on the same night, visions that deeply unsettled their spirits. Their faces, etched with worry, revealed the profound distress these nocturnal mysteries caused them. Joseph, observing their troubled countenances, approached them. "Don't interpretations belong to God?" he asked humbly, yet with an underlying confidence. He offered to hear their dreams, attributing his interpretive gift not to himself, but to the divine power that still guided him, even in confinement. This singular opportunity offered a path, however slim, to freedom. Prophecy in prison. Joseph, listening intently to their troubled accounts, proceeded to unveil the future. To the cupbearer, he declared that in 3 days, Pharaoh would restore him to his esteemed position, and he would once again serve the king his cup. For the baker, the interpretation was grim. In 3 days, Pharaoh would take his life, and his body would be hanged. With the weight of these certain predictions, Joseph turned to the cupbearer. "Please," he pleaded earnestly, his voice filled with a desperate hope, "remember me when all goes well with you, and speak to Pharaoh about me, so that I may be released from this prison." His plea, a fragile bridge to the outside world, was a testament to his longing for justice, a cruel twist of fate. Just 3 days later, on the grand occasion of Pharaoh's birthday, Joseph's predictions came to pass with chilling accuracy. The cupbearer was indeed restored to his esteemed office, once again holding the royal cup. The baker, however, met his grim end, executed just as Joseph had foretold. Yet, in the cupbearer's joyous return to freedom and privilege, a crucial detail was tragically forgotten. Joseph, the one who had unveiled his future and pleaded for remembrance, was left behind. 2 long years crawled by, silent and unforgiving, as Joseph remained in the dungeon, a forgotten soul, enduring the lingering injustice of his prolonged imprisonment, building anticipation for the moment a new crisis would finally bring his extraordinary gift to light. A king's sleepless nights. 2 years after the cupbearer's release, a new crisis gripped the opulent halls of Pharaoh's palace. The ruler himself was tormented by 2 profoundly disturbing dreams. In the first, 7 fat, healthy cows emerged from the Nile, only to be devoured by 7 ugly, gaunt cows that remained as emaciated as before. In the second, 7 plump, beautiful ears of grain sprouted from a single stalk, yet were swallowed by 7 withered, scorched ears. Pharaoh's sleep was shattered, his heart deeply troubled. His wise men and magicians were summoned, but their combined knowledge and mystical arts failed. None could offer a satisfying interpretation, plunging Egypt into a royal crisis and signaling a desperate need for a solution beyond human understanding. A forgotten memory resurfaces. In the midst of the royal turmoil, as Pharaoh's court stood baffled, the chief cupbearer finally remembered. The young Hebrew in prison, the one who had so accurately interpreted his own dream, now returned to his thoughts. He immediately recounted Joseph's prophetic gift to Pharaoh, a glimmer of hope in the king's despair. Joseph was swiftly brought from the dungeon, his appearance transformed with a shave and fresh garments. He stood before Pharaoh, no longer a forgotten prisoner, but a humble servant ready to speak. "It is not in me," Joseph declared with unwavering resolve, "but God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer." The stage was set for an epic revelation, a profound shift in power orchestrated by unseen hands. The future of Egypt revealed. Pharaoh, with a mixture of hope and desperation, recounted his disturbing dreams to Joseph. Joseph, guided by divine insight, stood before the most powerful man in Egypt and unveiled the cryptic meaning behind the visions. Both dreams have the same meaning. He proclaimed with clarity and authority, God is revealing to Pharaoh what is about to happen. He interpreted the 7 fat cows and full ears of grain as 7 years of unparalleled abundance throughout all Egypt. But following these, he warned, would come 7 years of devastating famine, so severe that it would erase the very memory of the prosperous years that preceded them. This profound prophecy was a dire warning, a clear roadmap for a nation's survival, and a turning point for its chosen savior. From prisoner to prince. Witness Joseph's stunning ascent as Pharaoh elevates him to governor of all Egypt, second only to the king himself. Adorned in royal splendor, Joseph's wisdom is recognized, and his destiny unfolds, setting the stage for the preservation of a nation. In the grand throne room, Joseph humbly presented his counsel to Pharaoh to appoint a wise and discerning man to manage the country, to gather and store grain during the 7 years of coming abundance. Pharaoh, recognizing the divine spirit within Joseph, declared, "Can we find anyone like this man, in whom is the Spirit of God?" With a decisive pronouncement, he elevated Joseph to a position of unparalleled power. A signet ring, fine linen garments, and a gold chain adorned him, symbols of his new authority. Carried in a royal chariot, Joseph rode through the streets of Egypt, acclaimed by the people, a testament to God's hand in his dramatic rise. A nation saved by foresight. Witness Joseph's incredible administration during 7 years of unparalleled abundance, as he meticulously stores vast quantities of grain, preparing Egypt for the prophesied famine. His diligence will soon become the lifeline for countless lives, including his own family. Joseph immediately set to work, organizing the colossal task of collecting and storing grain during the 7 years of abundant harvest. Throughout the vast lands of Egypt, granaries rose, filled with the bounty of the earth. He gathered food in every city, stockpiling reserves for the lean years to come. The abundance was so immense, so ceaseless, that they eventually ceased keeping records, for the grain was like the sand of the sea, beyond all measure. Egypt, through Joseph's diligent and divinely guided foresight, was prepared. Famine grips the land, driving desperate people to Egypt, the only source of food. Witness the dramatic arrival of Joseph's 10 brothers, bowing before him, unknowingly fulfilling his prophetic dreams. But he recognizes them, setting the stage for a profound test of their hearts. As Joseph had foretold, the 7 years of plenty gave way to 7 years of severe famine. Not only Egypt, but all the surrounding lands suffered under the crushing weight of scarcity. From every corner, desperate people converged upon Egypt, the only land with reserves, to buy grain. Among them, bowed low by their journey and the weight of hunger, arrived Joseph's 10 older brothers. They prostrated themselves before the mighty Egyptian governor, unaware that this powerful figure was the very brother they had sold into slavery. Joseph, however, recognized them immediately, his childhood dreams of their bowing sheaves now vividly fulfilled. A stern accusation, a harsh demand. Joseph, disguised, tests his brothers' hearts, accusing them of being spies and demanding they bring their youngest brother, Benjamin. Witness their terror as they are imprisoned, their past sins echoing in their minds. Will they risk Benjamin's life for their own freedom? Though his heart stirred with a complex mix of emotions, Joseph maintained a stern countenance. He spoke harshly, accusing his brothers of being spies come to observe the land's weaknesses. They pleaded their innocence, explaining they were honest men, brothers from one father in Canaan, with a youngest brother at home and one who was no more. Joseph's gaze hardened. "This is how I will test you. Unless your youngest brother comes here, you will not leave." He imprisoned them for 3 days, demanding they prove their honesty by bringing Benjamin to Egypt. Simeon held hostage, a family's guilt exposed. As Joseph's brothers return home, they confront the terrifying truth. Their current suffering is divine retribution for their betrayal of Joseph. Witness their dawning realization of guilt, intensified by a mysterious discovery in their sacks. On the 3rd day, Joseph released 9 of his brothers, but kept Simeon bound as a hostage. He commanded them to take grain back for their starving families, but to return with their youngest brother. As they journeyed homeward, they made a terrifying discovery. Their money, placed secretly in their sacks by Joseph's command, was returned. Fear gripped them, and they confessed to each other, "Surely we are being punished because of our brother. We saw how distressed he was when he pleaded with us, but we wouldn't listen. That is why this trouble has come upon us." Divine judgment, they realized, was upon them. A father's impossible choice. Jacob, already heartbroken by the loss of Joseph and Simeon, faces a new demand: send Benjamin to Egypt or starve. Witness his profound anguish and reluctant consent as the famine forces him to risk his last beloved son, placing his family's fate in the hands of an unknown Egyptian ruler. Upon their return to Canaan, the brothers recounted everything to their aged father, Jacob. Simeon held captive the harsh Egyptian governor's demand for Benjamin. Jacob was distraught, his heart heavy with renewed sorrow. "You have deprived me of my children," he cried. "Joseph is no more, Simeon is no more, and now you want to take Benjamin? Everything is against me." He vehemently refused to let Benjamin go, but the famine tightened its grip, relentless and unforgiving. Faced with starvation and persuaded by Judah's desperate plea, Jacob reluctantly agreed, sending double money and precious gifts, placing his last beloved son into the unknown hands of Egypt. A hidden brother's tears. Joseph's brothers return with Benjamin, unknowingly stepping into a carefully orchestrated test. Witness Joseph's overwhelming, concealed emotion upon seeing his full brother, and the feast where a subtle act of favoritism will push his brothers to their limits. Will they betray Benjamin as they betrayed him? With Benjamin now among them, Jacob's sons returned to Egypt. Joseph, upon seeing his full brother, struggled to contain the overwhelming flood of emotion. He quickly retreated to his private chambers, weeping silently before regaining his composure. He then ordered a grand feast, seating his brothers in precise birth order, a detail that astonished them. Yet the subtle test continued. Benjamin received portions 5 times larger than any of his brothers, an act of favoritism designed to observe their reactions. The question hung unspoken. Had their hearts truly changed? The morning light had barely touched the Egyptian desert when Joseph's brothers, their sacks heavy with grain and their hearts heavy with the weight of the previous night's feast, began their journey home. Little did they know, the final, most agonizing test had been set in motion. Joseph, his face still unreadable behind his Egyptian guise, had commanded his steward to secretly place his silver divination cup into Benjamin's sack. They had not gone far before a thunderous cry echoed across the plains. The steward, on Joseph's orders, galloped after them, his voice sharp with accusation. "Why have you repaid good with evil? Is this not the cup from which my master drinks and practices divination? You have done a wicked thing." The brothers, aghast, vehemently denied the theft, proclaiming their innocence and even offering death to the one found guilty. But as the steward meticulously searched, the gleaming silver cup was dramatically pulled from Benjamin's sack, shocking them into desperate silence. Despair gripped the brothers as they were led back to Joseph's court, Benjamin facing enslavement. The weight of their past betrayal, the memory of Joseph's own sale into Egypt, now pressed down on them. No one spoke. Then, from their midst, Judah stepped forward. His voice, once dismissive of Joseph's pleas, now resonated with a profound, selfless love. He offered himself as a slave in Benjamin's place, pleading passionately for his youngest brother. He described Jacob's deep, fragile affection for Benjamin, how his loss would surely bring the old man's gray hairs down to the grave in sorrow. It was a testament to a changed heart, a complete reversal from the callousness that had once condemned Joseph. This powerful, unexpected intercession, a brother willing to sacrifice his freedom for another, shattered Joseph's carefully constructed facade of stern resolve. The emotional dam within Joseph finally burst. He could no longer maintain his disguise. With a commanding gesture, he ordered every Egyptian from the room, leaving only himself and his terrified brothers. Then the tears came, loud and overwhelming, a torrent of suppressed grief and longing. Through his sobs, he uttered the words that would change everything. "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" His brothers stood stunned, speechless with terror, conviction, and a dawning, horrifying realization. Joseph, the brother they had sold into slavery, now stood before them as the most powerful man in Egypt. He quickly reassured them, explaining that their evil intent had been transformed by divine providence. "Do not be distressed or angry with yourselves for selling me here," he declared. "God sent me ahead of you to preserve life, turning your evil into good." The air, thick with shock, slowly filled with a profound release of reconciliation and forgiveness. The news of Joseph's revelation and the profound reconciliation with his brothers quickly reached Pharaoh. Far from being displeased, the king rejoiced. Pharaoh, recognizing the hand of God in Joseph's life and the impending salvation of his family, generously extended an invitation. "Tell your father and his household to come to me," he commanded. "I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you will eat the fat of the land." Joseph, grateful for Pharaoh's benevolence, sent wagons to Canaan to transport his entire family, along with ample provisions for their journey. The long years of separation and suffering were finally at an end, replaced by a divine provision and an urgent call to reunite. Back in Canaan, Joseph's brothers delivered the astonishing news to their aged father. Joseph is still alive, and he is ruler over all Egypt. Jacob's heart, numb with decades of grief, first recoiled in disbelief. The words seemed too miraculous, too good to be true. But as they recounted Joseph's words and displayed the wagons sent by Pharaoh, a profound joy began to swell within him. His face, etched with sorrow for so long, suddenly shone with radiant hope. "It is enough," he exclaimed, tears streaming down his face. "My son Joseph is still alive. I will go and see him before I die." With this declaration, Jacob and his entire family, 70 souls in total, began their epic migration to Egypt, guided by God's reassuring voice along the way. The moment arrived at the border of Egypt in the fertile land of Goshen. Joseph, adorned in the splendor of his office, rode out in his chariot to meet his father. Decades of separation, of pain, of longing, collapsed into a single profound embrace. Father and son clung to each other, weeping openly, their tears a testament to a reunion thought impossible. Jacob's family was then presented to Pharaoh, who graciously settled them in Goshen, a land abundant and rich. Under Pharaoh's protection and Joseph's diligent care, the family of Jacob thrived, a people preserved from the ravages of famine, poised to grow into the multitude of nations promised to their forefathers. Jacob lived 17 more years in Egypt, witnessing his family grow and prosper. As his final days approached, he called Joseph to his side, making him swear a solemn promise, not to let his body rest in Egypt, but to return it to Canaan, to the tomb of his fathers. Later, Jacob gathered all his 12 sons. With profound wisdom and foresight, he delivered prophetic blessings and pronouncements over each of them, foretelling the future destiny of the tribes that would emerge from their lines. Notably, he crossed his hands, placing his right hand on Joseph's younger son Ephraim instead of Manasseh, affirming a divine preference that would shape the future of Israel. These were the words that would echo through generations, guiding the destiny of a chosen people. Joseph faithfully fulfilled the promise made to his father. A grand funeral procession, a testament to Jacob's standing and Joseph's power, journeyed from Egypt to Canaan, where Jacob was laid to rest in the cave of Machpelah, the family tomb Abraham had purchased. Joseph lived to be 110 years old, seeing his children and grandchildren flourish in Egypt. On his own deathbed, he gathered his family, making them swear a final prophetic oath. "God will surely come to your aid and take you up out of this land to the land he promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Then you must carry my bones up with you from this place." Joseph died and was embalmed in Egypt, his bones awaiting the future deliverance, a silent, enduring symbol of God's unwavering faithfulness and the covenant fulfilled.